Welcome to Bama Drone, where mostly old school country boys go high tech with their thermal drone. We're located where the sky is so blue in Sweet Home, Alabama. We hope you think we're rednecks, at least in some way. If you don't, it's going to be an insult. Hi everyone, welcome to Bama Drone. All right, Casey, we got you here, man. All right, you sounding good? You with us?
Yeah, I'm with y'all. I can't see you, but I can hear y'all.
Oh man, you like the. And then we got Richard out here. That's the voyeur. Okay, so everybody's on. We are good to go. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to play the intro, and then we're going to get started on what we're going to call the show. It's not live, okay, but I want to play it from this point as if it's live. So let's remember the customer. We're actually making this for our customers, okay, and our fellow drone pilots. So let's make sure we don't bash anybody or make anybody look, like I say, all of us hunters, man, we've all seen the big buck, and we've all thought it was this big, and when we got there, it was, like that. And so let's make sure that as we talk about it, let's talk about the things. Remember, when you do your intro, you're going to have one unique thing that you need to tell about yourself. The other thing I want to say before we get started is this may go to shit, okay? It may not work at all. It may be stupid, okay? But if nothing else, we have tried it. And like Jeff was saying earlier, some of your grandkids can laugh about, okay? Let's not talk about legal issues. Let's not talk about bad people. Let's just have a good time and make a general one and introduce each other and ourselves and all the kind of things. So when we get started, Hunter, you're the first one that's going to introduce yourself, and then it's going to go alphabetical order. Drew, instead of you being first, you're going to actually almost be next to last. It's going to be Andrew, Casey, Drew, then Jeff, and then me. Okay, and then we'll go from there, and it'll be fun. We'll have a good time. It might last 2 hours. It might last 14 minutes. We're looking at each other like we're idiots. Okay, but no matter what, we'll have a good time. Okay.
Is Jeff still froze on yours?
Yeah, Jeff's in and out on mine, but it's not a problem because we can hear him fine. It's okay.
Can y'all see me? Because I can't see anybody.
Where do I fall in the introductions?
Yeah, we can see you, Casey.
I don't know my alphabet.
Oh, this is going to be fun. Okay, so let me go and share my screen. I got it.
Hey, real quick, I don't know the alphabet. Where do I fall in the introductions?
Oh my gosh, who's saying that?
We'll start with D. D
Hunter.
means doomed.
Okay.
Welcome to Bama Drone, where mostly old school country boys go high tech with their thermal drone. We're located where the sky is so blue in Sweet Home, Alabama. We hope you think we're rednecks, at least in some way. If you don't, it's going to be an insult. Hi everyone, welcome to Bama Drone.
Hey everybody,
Bama Drone, where mostly old
it
school
is
country
Will
boys
from
go
Bama
high tech
Drone,
with their thermal
and
drone.
I
We're
am
where the
messing it
sky
up
is so
like
blue in
crazy
Sweet Home,
as
Alabama.
it goes and continues to talk and go on and on and on as the intro plays one more time, and I didn't mean to. And that's the way it goes sometimes. So anyway, we're here at Bama Drones, man. We got Hunter on the road. He's out there, Pabalate, Hunter Pabalate. I'm telling you, dude, we had some sub-channel discussions amongst ourselves that we're not telling anybody else about. He's my co-host, and he's traveling out. He's going to go find some cows. We got Jeff. He is locked up, okay? That's the camera you're going to get, okay? That's the scene you're going to get, okay? Casey, he doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't see.
No idea.
Okay, we're flipping him off, throwing things at him. He doesn't know. Drew doesn't know the alphabet. He's over here, doggone, can't figure out what time it is and where he's supposed to go. And Andrew's decided to take a walk. So, hey, that's what's going on. Welcome to Bama Drone. I'm Will. I'm going to start. Hunter, go ahead and introduce yourself, man.
Hey, how's it going, guys? It's Hunter Pabalate with Wild Vision Thermal. I'm just happy to start off the first episode of Bama Drones, and I couldn't be more excited to see what comes of it. So I'm Hunter, and I fly a Mavic 3T, and I'm located out of Birmingham, Alabama. I've been doing this for a little over 2 years. This is my first year taking it really seriously. I have a good log of clients that I have a track record with, so I feel like business is really heating up this year in a good way. So I'm really excited to really share some knowledge and also learn from these guys that are all helping out on this podcast, and really excited to see what comes. And one fact about me that you may not know is I'm also a private pilot. And so I have a little bit of time in a Cessna 172 fixed wing aircraft, and then also so I like to fly drones, and I also like to fly planes. So that's a little bit about me. Happy to have you all.
We know who has the money.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, we know. Woo-hoo. Hey, if you're a pilot, then I don't find too many of them down on the other side of the tracks over here where I'm at that are pawning for money and stuff. Andrew, you're next, man. Give us up.
What's up, everybody? I'm Andrew. I'm actually the owner of Chattahoochee Drone Service. I'm literally spitting distance away from the Georgia state line. I do Alabama and Georgia. A little bit something interesting about me too on the outside of drone things. I also run golf tournaments, so a little different on the outside of things. But and then also manage a roofing company, but as far as drones go, I've been in it a little over 5 years, and I do telecom, I do solar, and a lot of different other things. As far as recovery goes, the majority of the one I use is the Alltel Evo Max 4T. I have a good bit of luck with that. I do also have a couple other thermals, but I'm not gonna bash on any drones, but that's the one I use, and it's been pretty good for me. So
All right. Thanks for sharing. Casey, you're up next.
Hey man, Casey Young. I'm from Auburn, Alabama. I pretty much cover a lot of the black belt here in state of Alabama. Um, I work for the railroad. I'm an engineer, so I've been there for 20 years. Um, Out of town a lot, but I mean, I get a lot of recoveries close to where I work at. So I'm just all across the country, far as, or I say country, state, east, west. Uh, That's pretty much, man. I just I work with a lot of dogs. I work with a lot of people that has dogs, and I love the relationship with them. They call me, give me leads. I give them leads. So, far as the drones coming in, think they're knocking out the dogs. That's not the case whatsoever with what we're doing. We like to work with the dogs. There's things where the dogs help out a lot versus same thing with the drones. So yeah, that pretty much wraps it up. Been 2.5 years doing this, 2 years hardcore on the drone recovery. So yeah, that's about it.
Hey, all right. Cool. Hey, Drew, it's your turn, right?
Yeah, I'm Drew Rutledge. I'm in Lincoln, Alabama, right here off I-20. I fly the 3T as well, same as Hunter. I've had my Part 107 certificate since 2017. I've been doing the thermal going on 2 years. I really enjoy it. What I do outside of this, I own a transport company. We haul storage buildings, tiny homes, cabins, that kind of stuff. Fun fact about me is I got way too many hobbies, not enough time, I guess. I don't really have many fun facts.
Amen.
Yeah, right. Most of us have that. We find that in our lives that if you're into tech and you're into hunting and all that stuff merges, next thing you know, if it wasn't drone, it'd be the latest cell phone cameras or all kinds of crazy things that we have, right? Jeff, your turn, man.
Well, first off, am I still frozen?
Nope, you're with us. You look great, man. Yay, wave.
I came to life. Anyhow, I'm Jeff Latham, born in Japan. That's interesting, I think, to some people.
Got 2 degrees from Auburn. I'm a registered
War
forester.
Eagle.
Yep, I'm a registered forester wildlife biologist. Been working on my own for 34 years. As a consulting biologist and forester, I do embryology work on goat, sheep, did deer for a while, but that whole thing kind of played out. I do that work from Pennsylvania all the way to Texas.
Mm.
I fly Mavic 3E, Mavic 3T, and in spring I'll start flying a spray drone, and that's about it.
Yay! Hold on, let me just see if I can figure this out. Hold on. Hey, I don't know what I'm doing. Like I said, if nothing else, as grandpa's I'm grandpa. So I'm Will Marshall. I'm out of the Wiregrass down in the southeastern corner of Alabama, Dothan, Alabama, that kind of area. We call ourselves the Wiregrass. I fly a Mavic 3T, and I love it. I love it. I don't really want to fly in the rain anyway. I never kind of got this thinking I was going to earn a lot of money at it. I just kind of do it as a hobby. I found out about it at the family event where my cousin said, "Hey, did you see the guy on YouTube? You fly drones, right?" And I've been flying drones since 2017. I fly the FPV drones. I put the goggles on and I fly manual mode, and I do flips and turns and chase my buddies around and chase motocross riders and stuff. That's what I was doing. And then when I found out that you could use a thermal drone and go play with deer, I had just quit deer hunting. I had decided I didn't ever want to kill another deer. I'd killed enough, right? I had shot so many deer. I had all these buckets of antlers that over the years, I realized that those trophies were just memories, just an example of a memory. And so I decided to be a support staff for all those others that wanted to hunt. And so I'm a retired Army first sergeant. I was a jump master in the Army. I wrote some of the Army manuals that we're still using of today about jumping out of airplanes. It's a very proud heritage that me and the folks that were around me lived and still live. I have several podcasts about those kinds of things. One is Marshall in the Middle on YouTube. It's a series where I do a show about heroes I know. I've done over 200 interviews where I talk to veterans and Sunday school teachers and pastors and people that are, and my mom. I actually interview my mom and my dad on my show and talk to them. And I have these coins right here that you get with a serial number on it. And then we put that interview on a thumb drive that's made of titanium. And so if the Russians come, it'll be solid, our thumb drive with our memories on it. The serial numbered coin, it's a treasure that I would hope that your family would love for years. I've done many of these interviews, and it's interesting to hear everybody's story. Everybody has such a unique story. One of the things as we transition to the next thing is I want to talk about the 5 things that we've learned about being a pro drone pilot. Okay, so I'm going to share mine. Let me get my little note up here, and I'm going to give you my top 5 things that I've learned as a pro drone pilot. 1, the phone rings at 9 and 9, and both have their issue. One is the sun, the other is no sleep, but lots of fun. You never know what you're going to get. This is number 2. You never know what you're going to get when the phone rings. It's a totally crazy adventure each time. The best part about it is you're usually helping someone chase their dreams. Number 3, hunters are always wrong. Not really, but really. Our memory sucks. And when you have buck fever, wow, we do not remember very well. And it goes the whole gamut, I promise you. Because when you're looking at that drone and you see all the animals and you do it over time, you see things different. Number 4, deer are tough, very tough. They will endure. I guess they have to, right? The other day, I was actually happy when it was obvious that this doe had ducked my buddy's arrow, and it was injured somewhat, but it was going to live. Heck, I was happy I didn't even have to drag her out. So she was going to live and be fine. And then number 5, drones are cool, but they do not make loads of money like many people think they do. The drone deer recovery guys sold me a dream. And you know what? I'm living the dream. But one of the top 5 things I've learned is I'm not getting rich. So that was one of the things I thought of. What do y'all think about that? What are y'all's top 5 things, guys?
Yeah, that's awesome, Will.
Go ahead, Hunter.
Okay, I was just gonna say that's awesome, Will. I love how you said that one of the things you've learned is chasing memories, because that's not something I had thought of when I first started, but I've come to love how emotion packed this job is. You know, whenever I go on a deer recovery, I find myself in the hunter's shoes and start to get excited like it's one of my own deer. You know, there's great highs in that, and then there's also lows whenever the search was not successful. You know, last week we went on a call for a granddaughter's first deer at 6 years old, and it was super exciting. You know, you put yourself in the shoes of a parent or a grandparent, and you get super excited about moments like that. And it turns out after us searching and a dog searching, we weren't able to seal the deal, and we think that the buck stood to live another day. But I didn't expect going into it that it was going to be as emotion packed as it was. So that was an awesome moment for me. And then I love how you hinted at the fact that we don't make money. And I think doing this, I found the love for the chase and helping out other hunters far more rewarding than the actual dollars going in my bank account, because I can promise you it's not a lot. So I really enjoyed just all these memories that are hunting, and like you said, the antlers pile up, and they're significant of the memories. Doing this in a way you can step into other hunters' shoes and take part in their memories that they're making, which is such a cool thing to be a part of. And one more thing, I didn't come up with 5. Y'all will get to know me over these episodes. But one thing is, I'm not really good at counting. Never really took to it as a youngin. But the next thing just was being able to serve hunters. I think in that, and I've kind of already hinted to that. But in that, the hunters are very happy to see you, and it's kind of a sense of purpose being able to help hunters, because at the end of the day, I don't care if it's me or a dog. I just want to recover a hunter's deer, and that there's nothing that makes you feel more proud and happy when you're able to do that for a hunter in the state of Alabama.
Who's next? Andrew, you next?
Yeah, man, I was going to jump in just a second ago and be like, good Lord, Will, you have got some sure enough experience on this with YouTube. I can tell you can sure enough direct and all that good stuff as far as talking goes. So, great job so far, buddy. But anyway, I'll jump into it. As far as top 5 things I've kind of learned throughout the years, I also do the FPV stuff. With real estate, I also help with law enforcement as far as flying into suspects' homes or whatever the case may be with that. But you just kind of got to, no matter how long you've been doing it, you just got to be still aware of everything around you. I mean, I had my drone the other day. I mean, as soon as I took it off, and of course, it was one of those situations where there was 20 cars around. I was in a tight area. The trees are right above you. And of course, as soon as I get it up in the air, the drone starts not really, I guess malfunctioning to a sense, because it was flying without me, operating any controls. So it was kind of a unique situation that was, that kind of took you off guard, and just kind of, always don't get complacent and all that kind of stuff whenever, as far as, the operation side of things and everybody coming around you and whatnot. That's really kind of one of the main things, especially with telecom and stuff, because like I said, I do telecom, and you got people walking up on you trying to warn, especially when you got cell towers in neighborhoods, and people just always curious, and you never know who's behind you, this, that, and the other. So anyway, just staying aware of your surroundings and on the hunting side of things, like you touched on. I mean, it does get emotional. Like the other day, I had a horse recovery up in Roopville, Georgia, just up north of Franklin, and uh, I ended up going back a second day because we couldn't find it the first day, and ended up finding it the second day. The horse fell into an old well and broke its neck. So, it's one of those emotional situations because it was a lady's source of income as far as photography and a lot of things with their family and that sort of thing. So, it definitely gets emotional sometimes, especially on some of these search and rescue missions with law enforcement. I do a lot on the river. We have a lot of situations out on the river here locally that I have to assist with sometimes, and there's a lot more that goes into it than a lot of people just think. We're out charging all this money when like you said we don't really pocket very much. I mean, and we're out until I've slept on somebody's hunting land before, so I mean it's like it's a lot more in depth than what people think, and it definitely has its benefits.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So who else is top five out there? Anybody got any addition
Kind
to
of
the
pitch you in too. I'll kind of pitch you in. So, kind of y'all's points too. One thing that really surprised me with the drone is how tough deer are. We've seen deer with very good sized wound in it. The deer still be alive, and that customer will text me 3, 4, 5 days later. That deer is still walking around. They'll text me 2 weeks later. They finally shot it. When you initially see the shot, you think it's going to be a dead deer in the next morning or whatever, and they're very tough animals. There's going to be a lot of calls that you go on that are non-lethal shots, but at least with a drone, you can zoom in, you can show the customer, okay, this is exactly where he's hit at. He's going to make it, or whatever it may be. Like Will said, one thing I had to learn too is the customers they'll be all excited and I got a 160-inch deer, and then you get there and it's a lot smaller deer, which ain't the hunter's fault. It's them getting wrapped up in it. That's pretty much it, and also the emotion too. I mean, you get tied in there, like Hunter said. You get side by side with that hunter, and you're looking for an hour for their deer. When you finally find it, it feels like it's your own deer. I get just as excited sometimes as I do hunting when I'm flying the drone. And on the horse recovery, kind of the emotions in that, I had to go find a horse here probably about 5 months ago. I actually found it in the middle of 20,000 acres. I didn't know where it was at. I'd been missing for 17 hours. And when I found that horse, man, the look on their faces and the hugs and the emotions, and it was awesome. It was a really cool deal. I think the drones are an incredible way to go. Some people may be cautious of them or kind of weary of them right now, but I think if we just keep doing what we're doing and plugging away, everybody's going to see the good side of it.
Yeah, and I think that this will help, being very informative to people that are very weary. I think the same thing. People, see drones and get to thinking, oh, got drones flying everywhere. But, I think stuff like this is going to, be very, very beneficial and helpful for people to understand.
Yeah, that's a good point, Bradley. I wanted to cover it, but I'm on the road and I don't have notes, so I'm just kind of shooting off the hip. But I'm glad you hit the mark there with one other point I was going to say, and that's that you're not always providing a location for a deceased deer recovery. A lot of times, what you're getting paid for is just the closure that the fact that their deer is going to live another day, or that it wasn't a fatal shot. And for a hunter that just shot at one of the biggest deer they've seen on their property, that's well worth it to a lot of hunters to know that they're going to have another chance at that deer, and that it's not just gut shot and ran a long way. So a lot of times, I find the most happy customers sometimes are the ones that are scared about their shot. They don't feel good about it. A lot of times it can make them feel really good just knowing that they're going to have another chance at that deer potentially, and just that closure that drone brings them in that sense.
Amen. Thanks.
Hey, let's just be honest. Most shots that on a deer that's going to be a great shot, they're going to find a deer. They're not even going to call us. So in my situation or my experience is a lot of deer that I go and look for, they're still alive, or you just don't even find them. So I mean, I don't know what experience y'all have had with them, but a good lethal shot, the deer's gonna be dead. The hunter's gonna find them.
Yeah.
So most of my calls, we either find the deer alive or you don't find the deer. Have y'all had experience with that?
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing here too.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely doing it.
I think that's slightly different from me. I'll tell you what I think is slightly different. I have lots of recoveries where blood trails have gone too far or over property lines, or they thought things were going to happen. Like they knew they had sign of an injured deer, and I just took it over the edge. And so I have found plenty of deceased deer, that were fallen in a gully, were in a thicket that nobody would have ever gone into to even look, because you wouldn't have thought a deer would have gone through there. But they get so blind drunk at the end that they will power through anything, and they will end up in the craziest stuff. They'll end up elevated, actually, in some bushes. I've seen deer that died up on top of something almost. He jumped at his last moment. I've found them in all kinds of repair and disrepair. So anyway, I agree, Casey, 100%. 100%. Go ahead, continue on.
Yeah, I think a lot of them too. I find a lot of push deer, so they think they hit them back a little bit, and that comes down to I really try to learn the story as I'm talking to them on the phone. You know, I think the best way to run a business is honest business. So I don't want them to pay me if they don't feel comfortable about making the shot, and they don't think they found it unless they need that closure. So that's where it comes into, I think, taking the information up hand and just being honest with how you're feeling about the story they just told you. And then it comes down to, okay, they're paying me $200 for the closure, that they don't think they killed this deer, and we'll try our best to find it and give them that closure. And then a lot of times it's just, hey, I pushed this deer. I think its gut shot is probably going to run a long way. Give it a couple hours. I have good last seen location or last heard location, and let's go fly it. So I see a good mix of both of it, but I definitely agree. I think some people truly are paying us for closure, which I understand, especially on those big bucks.
Oh yeah.
It's a good point though. Do we want to talk about who here has the medal of having the longest track or furthest track, I guess?
Not me. I have
not me.
A long track.
I've had one over a mile, but it was mainly because we just kept moving locations. I mean, it was not really as far as one single flight takeoff, but it was, I mean, technically we just kept moving locations because ultimately the hunter was just unaware of where it was headed, and I was trying to help them out, so, but yeah, it was the same situation, gut shot. They said they had only bumped it and walked out. That's kind of here nor there, but it ultimately it ended up, well over. I mean, it wasn't over about over a mile and a half, but it was right at a mile that we ended up, going, because it was just a big acreage plot, and ultimately that's the considering factor.
I do have one that's pretty crazy. So I tracked this deer down in Raymer, Alabama, South Montgomery, and this guy called me. I searched for the deer that night. We couldn't find it. He called me back the next day. And now we will say he paid me for the day of coming. He's like, "Hey, I'll pay you again to come, tomorrow." It's like, "I want to look tomorrow too. It's supposed to be overcast." I says, "Great, be great situation to look for a deer." So I asked the guys, like, where is his bedding? Where do you think these deer are bedding? And he gave me a location, and we went and we actually found a deer in his bedding area, which this deer was in horrible shape, and the deer finally deceased there while I was there. But the craziest thing was this deer, once I found him, every 5 minutes, this deer would jump up, bristle up, like mad as hell at everything. And he would sit there for like 5 minutes and then he would lay back down, lick his wounds, looking bad. And then 5 minutes later, bam, he jumped back up, bristled up. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? This is no lie. I put my thermal back on my drone, and I picked up a heat signature literally 5 yards from him. When I zoomed in, there was a bobcat laying right beside the deer. Like, did the
Wow.
bobcat know that he was in a situation that he was going to die?
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
like that just blew my mind. I've never seen anything like that. And without these drones, we would have never known this or seen it.
Yeah.
Like, it just blew my mind. I had the video I can send y'all. There's literally a bobcat, I just say less than 10 yards from this deer.
Hmm.
It's like he
Yeah, I
knew
find
it
it.
was going to die.
Yeah, I find it crazy just the stuff we can see. Like just on that hunt on youth weekend for that granddaughter. Um, we didn't find that deer, but we saw plenty of other. And one was there was a deer bedded up on a power line, uh, no further than 30 yards away from a guy grilling lunch, like hamburgers on his back porch. And he was just never aware. And I think of like all the times I was probably right there next to a giant and just never saw him. And it's crazy how much we see that you wouldn't typically see with the drone without a drone.
Our
Correct. I've
biggest buck,
definitely had some wild sights myself.
our
Yeah.
biggest buck on our property beds right close to our barn. Like he knows exactly when we come. Okay, that's because that's where it's bedded area, and he'll stay right there all day. But we're never going to walk up on him or be able to shoot him in the way things are. They're so in such thick areas. The big bucks are.
Oh, yeah.
They're recluses when they get really big. So it's
And you
neat.
would never see them if you didn't have a drone. You never see them.
Right, right. Hey Jeff, I haven't heard your top five. Are you with us? Haven't seen you move in a while.
Am I frozen again?
Oh, hold on. Jeff, there he is. There he is. Yeah. Woo!
Anyhow, I don't know if I got five, and mine certainly aren't as eloquent as all of y'all's getting real deep into things. But as far as top five things I've learned from a drone, number one, buy twice as many batteries as you think you need. Number two, you will eventually crash. I don't care who you are. The more you fly, eventually you'll crash.
I've crashed.
Number three, don't fly your Mavic 3T in the rain because it will shock you several times, especially when you're trying to finish a deer survey and right at the end it starts raining and you got your transect, so you're just forcing the issue. And for the next 4 or 5 batteries in a row, you get shocked every time you pick it up. You just got to tough it out, As far as deer, with this drone stuff, and when I tell these stories, all kidding aside, there's no communication between the hunters. Anyhow, that was what made it kind of neat. But actually, the very day that I got shocked all those several times, before late evening, when everybody was going to their stand, because I just had that day I could do it on that particular place, and so they were going to stand. There's no communication. As a matter of fact, I'd already flown most places they were going. But there was one buck, and I don't mean, I'm talking about trophy class buck, and he was killed later in the year. But he was laying in a thicket along a stream with 8 does, and one of the owner's sons, it was right off a power line, got in that stand, stayed there till dark, never saw a thing. I flew it again late, and he never knew those deer were there. And they were close enough. They watched him get in his shoot house by far. There was another trophy class buck that was laying 10 yards off of a main woods road in a young pine plantation. And I watched the side by side go back and forth by that buck 4 times, taking people to different stands. And that buck never flinched and was laying right there 10 yards away. I mean, maybe less than 10 yards. And anyhow, I see stuff like that here at my house too, up close. I mean, you know, when you're growing up, you think there's a big buck out there that's probably, as a biologist, you start to realize they're probably not there. But now that I've been fiddling with these drones, you start to realize, well, maybe he's not Bunny and Crockett, but there's actually deer everywhere. You just don't know it.
Exactly.
So you there with a thermal.
For sure, for sure.
I don't mean to interrupt. I had the same situation as he was talking. Had a guy to call me down in Hurtsboro, Alabama, and he told me his son killed a buck, and we went and out and looked, and we found this particular buck that was bedding down, and I actually had the drone like. At first, we was at a distance, kind of, just looking at him, trying to see if we could see a wound mark or whatever. And after a while, 30, 40 minutes of looking at it, he told me, he's like, hey, just put the drone a little bit closer to him. Let's see if we can get him up. And man, I had his drone probably 20 foot above his buck bedding. And it was thick, briars, whatever. And this deer would not get up at all. And we was like, that's got to be him. This is just, this deer is acting crazy. And we actually got back on the dirt road and drove up probably, I say 200 yards, and drove right into him, a road, like right beside him, like 20 yards from this deer. And he never flinched. And I literally got the drone down probably, I say within 10 foot of this deer. And he jumped up and run off, and we was like, well, that's not him. And to go back what he was saying, like these deer, if they feel like they're in cover, they feel safe, they will not move. And we know it wasn't a deer because after that we actually walked up on the deer that he killed, which my drone did not pick up because it was in the middle of the day, sun was overhead, in the middle of some pines, and I actually walked up on him and found a dead deer. But just go back what he was saying. If these deer feel safe, they were bed right up against a highway, a house. It doesn't matter if they feel safe. It doesn't matter where it is. If they feel safe, they will not move. And it just blowed my mind.
Oh yeah, that bed right beside the interstate, right here at Chattahoochee River.
Correct.
There's a water treatment plant, right on the side of the river, on the side of I-85, and I can fly my drone from here to from over to over there, and every time there's at least probably 20, 25 deer over there. Every time,
Crazy.
every night,
I
right
think
beside the interstate.
deer behavior has been by far the primary thing that I've gotten out of my thermal drone as a biologist managing property. And just, I mean, you get to see the aspects day to day deer life that you would never know anything about. You call
Exactly.
or radio transmission, do all kinds of different things, but it's crazy. I mean, I can give you an example, even right here at my house where I have feeders on my property. I have deer that every single evening, when the dinner bell goes off about 4 o'clock, they literally travel a half a mile. I mean, I keep up and I follow them all the time and watch them, and with the drone, where they're just to watch. And it's just the craziest thing how far they will travel. Where their bedding area is, where their feeding area is, and then they get back out of there before daylight and go back to hide.
They definitely travel far. I have a guy that he's had me come out and fly his property several times, and he's like, man, I got so-and-so property deer here every morning, every evening. So I'll go out there and I'll fly for 2 hours and not see any of the good bucks that I've seen. And like you said, Jeff, it's amazing how far they'll travel. And for the drone, I would just assume that those deer are bedding here, eating here, staying here, but going out and flying his property for hours and not seeing the good bucks, and they're a mile and a half away probably. I have no idea where they're at during the time that I'm flying, and it's amazing.
It really is.
Yeah, especially during rut. I've done a couple deer surveys for folks, and then in a year coming, they kill a monster, and and they asked me how are deer more migratory than I thought, or are we in the home range of this buck? And I think what a lot of people miss is during rut how far bucks will go. I mean, they say during rut their home range goes all the way up to like 3 to 4 miles. Sometimes they'll travel. I think that's over one day. I don't quote me on that, but that's just in hopes of finding a mate, which is crazy to think about.
I have watched so many bucks migrate from one part of my property, following a group, find no hot does, go to another group, chase them for a while, go another way, and to where they're going all the way through my 500 acres. I just haven't found a way to tell the story on YouTube yet. Right? I have so much footage and so much data. I got 500 acres that I just go look at every other day, every third day. I've got lots of data, we got really the nicest bucks this season that we've had ever. And I'm enjoying a lot of just watching it and seeing my dad get excited about hunting, right? My dad, I'm going to go hunt this. I'm going to go shoot this buck. And, and then of course, taking a few does and, showing the grandkids how to skin them and process them. And, it's a love-hate process with some of it, because sometimes you got to clean up the mess. But it's a great kind of thing we've got going on here. Hey, Jeff, it's almost time for the technical thing that you signed up for. You ready for that? Can we do the big music? Everybody give me a good cheer. Yeah, cheer. All right, Jeff, here we go.
All right. Well, first off, did y'all see those deer I was showing you? I don't know if I was frozen or not, but I've got a camera.
No, you're not frozen. You're good.
There's a camera 20 yards from where I'm sitting right now, outside There's a couple of does out there having a boxing match right now. But
nice.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. But they're probably listening to me actually, because they're right out this window right here. But at any rate, technical. I don't know exactly how technical I am when it comes to all this kind of stuff, but like I said earlier, certain drones don't take water as well as others. And as far as crash goes, I've gotten proficient at crashing. I've crashed by pilot error, doing some really stupid stuff that was completely my fault. I very recently crashed in something that was 100% out of my control. Really, that's a bad feeling. I've disconnected before plenty of times with a bad signal, but in this particular instance, it just disconnected. Like, if you look at your controller when you turn your drone off or you haven't turned your drone on, that was what I had. And so I quickly tried to turn the controller off, turn it back on, because I knew as a fail-safe, it's supposed to come back home. And eventually I heard it coming back. The problem is, instead of landing where it took off from, where it's at the home port, it tried to land about 40 feet off to the side and went right through a couple of maples and a big oak, and obviously got all busted up. And in that particular situation, I've sent it. It's been sent off to get fixed. But another interesting thing was when I went to turn my controller back on to get information, I was logged out. And so why would that happen? So, the point with all that being is you've always got to be ready for anything when you're flying these, because they're not perfect. And they absolutely can malfunction. That's why you really need to follow the rules when you're as far as over people around the wrong thing. 'Cause like I said, you fly enough, you will crash. I mean, you can think you won't, you can hope that you won't, but a lot of times it's just absolutely not in your it's just not in your control. I've never had a flyaway, thank goodness, but at any rate, the other thing is I know there's a little bit of problem going on with DJI with some politics and things being shipped in and things being held up at customs. But I'm hoping they'll have the parts for my drone, because when you do fly a DJI drone, I highly recommend that you spend a little bit of money for DJI Care. I believe you can do either 2 years or a single year. Each drone has a different amount that it costs to sign up for a year or two. And, somebody that's a little bit more in tune with it than I am could correct me on it, but I have a good buddy that lives up in Memphis. I don't know if any of y'all have ever come across his website. It's Mid-South Drones, and he's kind of helped me through all this, and he is a DJI sales rep. And so, my understanding is let's say you crash your drone and it's under warranty and it's not pilot error. Well, then, they'll go through, look at your logs, and you're going to be okay. If you crash your drone and it is pilot error and you have your care is current, well, then you have a choice of either they'll go through, look at it, list everything out, and you can either pay. It's like like last year when I crashed my thermal drone, it ended up costing me $300. They just sent me a new drone. And I mean, from the time I crashed to the time I got it back, it was 10 days. It cost me $300. And now, of course, the care package was part of the purchase of the drone. And so here recently, I've had to re-up. And they allow you to get care for another year if you don't get more than, I think it's 2 replacements. And I'm probably talking in circles here, but the way that I did it doesn't count as a replacement. Replacement, they have what they call Express, and it costs more money. But if you wanted to use one of your Express, they'll send you a drone almost immediately. And so, anyhow, bottom line is, I think that's the best way to go on that. Me personally, I think that's better than whole insurance, just because, you're gonna get a payment out of your insurance company, but you still got to go get a replacement drone. And so maybe
How many years can you go? How many years can you go with that? So, like, if you buy a drone, you do like the 1 year, or what is it, like 2 year or 3 year? Can somebody
my
clarify that?
understanding is I could be proven wrong, but my understanding, because I had that conversation, is that if you don't use either of your replacements, and like I said, the way they classified what I did didn't count as that, then at the end of the year, you get to re-up. Now, I don't think there is a limit on that until you've used your, then you get to a point where you got to, let's say you back over yours, with truck, which
Right.
I hadn't done that yet, but it's possible. And
So I'm just wondering, after use, can you go like 5 years? Can you go 4 years, 6 years? How long can you do that insurance
I think
for
they let you
after
sign.
being purchased new?
I think when yours runs out and you haven't used any of your replacements, I
Right.
think you can sign up a year at a time. And
Okay.
and it is a different price. Like my care is up in February for my thermal, and it's going to
Right.
cost me about $430 for another round with the 2. My Mavic 3E, it was $299 for another year. But of course, there is a price difference there because of the cameras.
Right.
I
And I
think to
just
your
wonder.
point, Casey, I think the
Go
longest
ahead.
you can buy when you buy a drone is 2 years, and then like Jeff said, After the 2
Okay.
years, that's when you can re-up.
That's right.
Okay.
Which
So
I bought
do
the
y'all-
2 year when I bought mine, and I haven't even registered it. So I'm not a good one to talk
Okay.
to about DJI Care.
Well, you know,
I
they
just
put it.
wonder after that 2 years, being that it's used drone for 2 years, does it go, 3
Yeah,
years,
you can,
4 years, or
like Jeff said, you can keep using it pretty much until you use your 2 replacements, or
Yeah.
however
okay,
you want.
okay,
They will allow you.
Yeah, when you
okay,
go in, and I've just gotten way too good at this, but when you go in there and you set up a case,
right,
and it gets down to it, you don't even have to choose until they get the drone and they go through and do diagnostics and see what all happened, and then they'll come back and they'll say, if it's on you, then they're going to give you the option of
right, right,
either you pay. And so I was a little hesitant of that because I was like, well, that sounds like I'm at their mercy because
right.
they're come up with a bill. Well, the guy, like I said, that's kind of mentoring me through all this, he said, you want to go that route because you're going to be shocked at how cheap it is. Well, I was shocked. And then, like I
It
said,
was, yeah. I
they just,
crashed one too. Yeah.
so and hopefully with all this going on, that's not an issue. There again, I'm going to get a front row seat because earlier today, my drone departed Texas. I mean, that was one thing about it. When it happened, that's the other thing I left out. When you buy your 3T, your 30, whatever, keep
Right.
the box. Keep the box. Always keep the box. Because when you do your crashing routine like I do, you just pull the old box back out, put the drone back in. And that's the other thing. When you do your case, they immediately they give you a printable label for UPS.
Right,
Here
right. The ship back. Yep.
and we don't have a UPS pickup, so it took me 3 trips into town, just randomly driving around trying to locate UPS guy, and I actually
Yeah.
went to In-N-Out Bakery to get lunch, and look who pulled in, and I said, hey, here you go. So
Yep. I had a very good experience. That matter of fact, my first recovery, and it was totally my fault. I was sitting up on a hill, and I went down to where the deer was. So I got excited. He was like, "Hey man, we're gonna go in recover him." So I automatically just flew it back home, and I hit a treetop at like 40 miles an hour, destroyed the drone. And like I said, I put in a case. I had the 1 year recovery that come with the purchase of the drone, and as soon as I dropped it off to UPS and sent it to them, it was like they dropped a new drone and sent it right to me. Literally 5 or 6 days, I had a brand new drone at home. Like they have the best customer service
By
do.
far.
like huge. Like
Yeah.
that there sells me. I will buy DJI for now on for that kind of customer service.
I'm gonna finish
Yeah.
this one last little story here. I'm gonna go ahead and tell y'all how I crashed my drone last year, first time, because it's kind of funny, looking back at it. But I had a really, really nice buck on my property, and so I'm just out there one day, just doing a little test flight, looking at things. And I see this son going walking down one of my main roads through my property, just heading off through there. And I watch him bed down, and I thought, well, that's pretty neat, And so a little bit, I see him get up, and I think, well, I'm gonna walk over there and really get a look at this son of a gun. And so he cuts around on the road, and I'm following him with the drone. And about that time, I realized all of a sudden, because I don't know if this has ever happened to y'all, but you're sitting there staring at that screen, and you don't realize sometimes just how close that dadgum deer is to you. And all of a sudden, I looked up, and that's some gun sitting there just staring at me. And so you talk about getting kind of buck fever. I don't even have a weapon. I'm just sitting there looking at the deer. And so I thought I had set my controller down on a cross member on a fence. And because I'm sitting there trying not to move because he's just sitting, it's a standoff. Well, actually, I dropped it. Didn't realize I dropped it. It fell upside down on the ground. So my little toggles were all bent around. paid no attention to what it was doing to the drone whatsoever because I'd quit following the deer with the drone after that. I was watching him visually, so the drone was off, out away from us. And so the deer finally blows, hops across the road, and he's gone. And about that time, I hear this racket. And I was like, my gosh, there's 2 bucks fighting right here next to me. But it wasn't 2 bucks fighting. It was my drone crashing through the trees. And
exactly what happened to me. Exactly.
Yeah, now that one was ugly. This one was just a broken arm, and I got to hopefully they're going to figure out why it disconnected. But that last year deal, I might as well have stomped on it. It fell apart, but yeah, anyhow.
I have a question just for the.
Go ahead, Hunter.
I was going to add 2 things. One thing I do is I add the front-facing camera to a hot switch. And so anytime I change altitude or I've gone to quite a bit and the elevation changed a little bit, I've made quite a habit of checking that because there's been a couple of times where I've flown long and straight at the same altitude and found myself much closer to the trees than I once was when I first got there. So I found that to be really helpful because I've had a couple close calls with a 3T. I haven't crashed a 3T yet, knock on wood, but I've crashed a couple others. But the other thing I was going to ask is since we're talking about tech, has anybody tried doing this without a spotlight? I want to hear the room on that, and any new prospecting drone deer guys can see this and kind of make the decision off that.
So I tried a couple without the spotlight when I first got my drone. The spotlight was held up for 6 weeks or whatever it was. I would not recommend it because you find a red blob or whatever color you have it set to, and it's sitting there, and you're like, okay, that deer's expired. You walk in there, it's not. So you're constantly having to walk to every spot, and you're potentially bumping the deer that you're looking for without even knowing it.
Yep.
I would not.
Yeah, it's a non-negotiable in my eyes, but I was just saying if anybody has made it work without it.
Yeah, no,
I completely agree. I almost done an entire season without one, and it was very difficult because I had the other drones, but the Alltel. So I kind of boosted Alltel at the beginning, and we kind of got on the DJI Care conversation, and that was really the complete difference between Alltel and DJI. Alltel's repair and warranty department is awful. I mean, and I have DJI and Alltel. I mean, Alltel, like I said, DJI, they'll send you one back in a few days, and it's got the plastics on it. It's like I said, it's like a brand new drone.
It is. Most of the time it is a brand new drone.
Yeah, and Alltel, I mean, it took me 6 months to get one back, and it was a motor failure. I had 2 motors fail on my arm, on my props, and just flew straight into a tree. I mean, it was kind of a very very tense situation, but either way, it took 6 months to get that drone back.
Well, 6 months is the season's out, so you're shut down for the rest of the hunting season. Yeah. It sucks.
Yeah, and back to the spotlight issue. Now, the spotlight, of course, I don't know if y'all know much about the 4T. It took a while for that spotlight to get released, and anyway, so it does have a pretty bright landing light. So I was able to manually turn on that landing light, and of course, that's not really that bright. But I mean, you could utilize that in an open field area and kind of get low on it if the deer, of course, is expired, or of course you're gonna hop it up if it's not. But either way, definitely wouldn't recommend doing it without a spotlight.
And I guess that landing gear light, I guess it affects the deer directly under you because you have no way of angling the light like you have with the the 3T with the JZ light.
Yeah, and it's nearly impossible. I mean, it pretty much is impossible to get on top of one if he's under any trees.
Yeah.
So it's really not even worth risking your drone. So.
No, it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, I've flown the Alltels. I've flown DJI, of course, what I fly now, both the 3T and the 30T, and I've flown Skydio's X10. And I think bang for your buck is the 3T. The 30T, you get rain, you get the laser rangefinder, but the cost is double. And we've already highlighted doing deer recovery, you're just not making the kind of money to be able to justify that most of the time. The Skydio X10's the same way. It's almost a $30,000 drone. I've flown it for the power company, and I love that drone. But they start hitting you with subscriptions and all this stuff. And I will say it has the best obstacle avoidance ever made in a drone. It's just about can't crash the thing. It's amazing, but the price tag's still there. And then the Autel, my issue with the Autel was the warranty process, and then the zoom camera just seemed a little lackluster. But the thermal looked crisper to me. So I think there's pros and cons to all of it, but I think for me at least that 3T just hit the sweet spot.
Oh yeah, I agree 100%.
Yep.
All right, so hey, I love it, everybody. We've had a great episode. This is our first episode. Jeff is still frozen. Hold on. No, there he's okay. He's not frozen. He looks frozen. When I go on to his camera, he's not frozen. He's like when I go back, he's like off in La La Land most of the time. We got Drew out there and Casey and Andrew and hey Hunter as our co-host and road champion warrior out there. Tell us about the cows. What's the status of the cows right now? Are you still heading that way?
Yeah, I'm still headed out south of Florence, Alabama. I just pulled into a raceway where I'm gonna refuel and get some nice beverages to fuel my trip. But what I'm after is I'm after 2 cows. The guy called me, told me he had $10,000 worth of cows that had up and left the day after he had got them. And cows, I'm assuming they just thought that they were kidnapped, and so they're out exploring the local views right now. And so we've had quite some time. And initially it was 4, and we had another pilot fly it, and they got 2 with the help of some catch dogs. So we're gonna go out there tonight and try to get them other 2 for them. So there's a lot of money on the line, and I've been in talks with them for a couple of weeks now, just really trying to get the best outcome for them. But I will say cows are much easier to find than deer, so I'm not too worried about being able to locate them.
Well, I will give you a little word. Little word to the wise. I had to do a Christmas Eve calf recovery. The guy had bought 2 very expensive calves. And of course, as soon as he gets home, he opens the trailer and they gone right off into the woods. There was some of them real fuzzy cows, expensive calves,
Islanders or whatever.
And anyway, found them instantly. The problem was catching them.
Nice.
And a majority of the entire time I was there, and it was well over 4 hours probably. Was just catching them.
Even a slow cow catching a dead deer.
And that's one of the things that made the first call between me and him a little complicated, because he's battling the night versus day recovery for these cows, because it's much easier with a tractor and with people and even dogs to get all that handled during the day. Locating them during the day is much harder, but actually getting them back to their rightful place is much easier during the day. What he found was that the best method that he could find was catch dogs in a temporary pen, and so the way he got the first 2 was he found them via drone. They let the 6 catch dogs out right at him, and they got them in a temporary pen for overnight until they could figure it out in the morning. And so hopefully that's what the outcome will be, because it can become a really long one. I was saying earlier in our pre-show, I was on a Chihuahua rescue where we found the Chihuahua 7 or 8 times, but every time somebody would get within 100 feet, the Chihuahua would start screaming and take off at Mach speed back through the woods. And they had the whole town of Fultondale surrounding this Chihuahua, but they never got him. Eventually, the Chihuahua turned himself in at the fire department a couple of days later. But the live rescues can be quite tricky, especially when the better time to actually rescue them is during the day, but it's easier for us to locate at night. So we're definitely gonna have a good time, but we'll see.
Heck yeah.
All right,
Well,
everybody.
y'all, it's been fun. I got to check out.
Yeah.
Got to get ready for
so
work. I've had fun.
So let's call that episode. That's a wrap, everybody. Episode 1. Bam.
Boom.
All right, now we're in the after show. The after show has started now. If you're here and you made it through that, what we just went through the first time ever, and Jeff is still, Jeff, you with us, man? There he is. There he is. There he is. I didn't know. All right, so anybody's got to go pee or go do whatever you got to do. Go take a break. The after show is going to be up just for a short while, or it could be up for 3 hours. We don't know, but take a little break. The after show's here. Look at Andrew; he's loving this, man.
Hilarious! I love it, dude. I'm telling you, you're just natural at it, Will.
He is, man. He's killing it.
And then just left us hanging. That's fine.
Y'all have a great night. See y'all in the next episode.
Welcome to Bama Drone, where mostly old school country boys go high tech with their thermal drone. We're located where the sky is so blue in Sweet Home, Alabama. We hope you think we're rednecks, at least in some way. If you don't, it's going to be an insult. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Bama Drone.